Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine holding in your hand a single cent from the year 1982, a year that for many people blends quietly into the backdrop of history, yet for coin collectors it stands out as one of the most important and complicated years in United States minting. At first glance, the coin might seem ordinary. A small, round disc of copper-colored metal, bearing the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on one side and the stately image of the Lincoln Memorial on the other. You might have seen thousands of them in your life without giving them much thought. You might have tossed them into jars, slid them across counters, or let them roll under the seat of your car without a second glance. But the 1982 penny hides a story that makes it one of the most talked about coins in numismatics, a story of change, rarity, and unexpected value. It is a story in which something as small as 1 cent can be worth thousands of dollars, even hundreds of thousands in rare cases. And it all begins with a decision made by the U.S. Mint in response to changing economic realities. Copper, for more than a century, had been the standard metal for the United States 1-cent coin. Since 1909, when the Lincoln cent was first introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny had been composed mostly of copper, with a small percentage of zinc or tin for hardness. The composition was around 95% copper and 5% zinc, or tin, giving the coin its distinctive reddish-brown hue and a satisfying weight in the hand. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, however, the price of copper on the global market had risen so sharply that the metal content of each penny was approaching, and sometimes even exceeding, the coin's face value. This posed a dilemma for the U.S. Mint: continue producing pennies at a loss or find a more economical material to strike them from. In 1982, the Mint made the historic decision to change the composition of the cent from its long-standing bronze alloy to a cheaper copper-plated zinc. The new planchets were made of 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper, the copper applied as a thin electroplated layer to preserve the traditional color and appearance of the penny. This change was not merely a quiet switch from one metal to another. It was rolled out during the middle of the year, which meant that both copper cents and copper-plated zinc cents were struck in 1982, creating a unique transitional year where two different compositions of the same coin circulated together. This alone would have made the 1982 penny intriguing to collectors, but the story becomes even more complicated when you consider that the Mint also modified the style of the date on the coin during the same year, producing what numismatists call large date and small date varieties. The differences between a large date and a small date penny are subtle but noticeable once you know what to look for. In the large date variety, the numbers in 1982 appear bolder, with the 2 more upright and the loops in the 8 slightly larger and more spread out. In the small date variety, the 2 curves more gently, and the 8 has tighter, more compact loops. To the casual observer, these might seem like minor artistic variations, but to a collector they represent different dies and production runs, and when combined with the differences in metal composition, they form a matrix of distinct varieties for 1982 that can be collected and catalogued. All told, there are 7 regular issue varieties of the 1982 Lincoln cent: copper large date from Philadelphia, copper small date from Philadelphia, zinc large date from Philadelphia, zinc small date from Philadelphia, copper large date from Denver, zinc large date from Denver, and zinc small date from Denver. On top of those are proof coins from San Francisco and a handful of transitional errors that are so rare they can command life-changing prices when they appear at auction. The most famous and coveted of these rarities is the 1982 D small date copper penny. Denver had already switched over to the zinc planchets by the time the small date dies were in use, so a copper small date struck at the Denver Mint should not exist. And yet, through a quirk of timing or an overlooked batch of copper blanks, a tiny number were struck and released into circulation. Fewer than a dozen are known today, and when one of them surfaces, it creates a sensation in the coin collecting community. To tell the difference between copper and zinc 1982 pennies, weight is the most reliable indicator. A copper cent weighs 3.11 grams, while the lighter zinc version weighs about 2.50 grams. A digital gram scale can reveal the difference instantly, but there are other, less scientific ways to distinguish them. Some collectors swear by the drop test. A copper penny, when dropped onto a hard surface, produces a higher pitched, ringing sound, while the zinc coin emits a duller click. Still, the scale is the most precise tool for identification, and anyone searching for valuable 1982 pennies will use one frequently. By combining the details of date, size, metal composition, and mint mark, collectors can categorize their 1982 cents and identify any that might be of exceptional value. Most examples, even uncirculated ones, are worth only a small premium over face value, perhaps a few cents to a few dollars, but the rare transitional varieties are the ones that can be worth thousands. The 1982D small date copper penny is the crown jewel, with auction records exceeding $18,000 for high-grade specimens. When a collector finds one, it is as if lightning has struck, an unassuming coin in a handful of pocket change transformed into a treasure. The 1982 penny's appeal goes beyond its potential monetary value. It is a tangible snapshot of a moment in U.S. history when economic pressures reshaped even the smallest unit of currency. It connects the enduring image of Abraham Lincoln, first placed on the cent in 1909, with the practical realities of modern minting in the late 20th century. It offers collectors a puzzle to solve, a set of clues in weight, design, and mint mark that can lead to discovery. And it stands as a reminder that the most ordinary-looking objects can hide extraordinary stories, waiting for someone to notice them. When you first begin to explore the 1982 penny, it is easy to underestimate just how complex this single year's production truly was. For decades, pennies had been simple to categorize, minor variations here and there, a few notable errors or doubled dies, but 1982 became a year where everything changed at once. The switch from copper to zinc was more than a cost-cutting measure. It was a fundamental change in the way the coin felt in your hand, the sound it made when it fell into a coin jar, even the way it aged over time. Copper coins develop a deep, warm patina, often shifting toward chocolate brown or a reddish gold hue. Zinc cents, beneath their thin copper plating, have a different kind of wear pattern. When the plating is scratched or worn through, the dull gray zinc beneath is exposed, giving these coins a spotted or corroded appearance far sooner than their copper predecessors. This was also the year that introduced a challenge for casual coin hunters. The differences between large and small date varieties are subtle enough that many people overlook them entirely, passing by a potential rarity without a second thought. Large date coins were struck earlier in the year and are the more common variety in both copper and zinc, while small date coins are scarcer overall, and in some cases extremely scarce. The small date copper from Philadelphia is not particularly rare in absolute numbers, but in uncirculated red condition it becomes a desirable find. The small date copper from Denver, however, is another story entirely. This is the one that gets headlines, the one that seasoned collectors dream about spotting in an old jar of change. Only a few confirmed examples exist, and their value has skyrocketed every time one has come to auction. The rarity is not due to intentional minting, it was purely the result of leftover copper planchets being struck with the small date dies before the last of the old metal was phased out completely. Imagine the scene: a coin roll hunter sits at a table, surrounded by stacks of paper-wrapped penny rolls. They weigh each suspect coin, set aside those that tip the scale past 3 grams, examine the date and mint mark under a magnifier, and suddenly the realization hits: this could be the one. That tiny D under the date, that delicate curvature of the 2 in the small date style, that heavier copper weight. If the coin is genuine and grades high, it could be worth more than a brand new car. The heart races, hands tremble, and the journey from ordinary pocket change to extraordinary treasure is complete in a single moment. Beyond these well-known varieties, there are also era coins from 1982 that have captivated collectors. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin blank was misaligned during striking, can range from minor to dramatic, with extreme examples showing only half of Lincoln's face or part of the memorial. Double-struck coins, where the coin is struck twice and the images overlap slightly, can be equally fascinating. Even die cracks or cuds, raised areas of metal where part of the die has broken away, are collected by enthusiasts, especially when they appear on coins from transitional years like 1982. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where a penny is struck on a blank intended for another coin, creating a coin of the wrong size, weight, or metal entirely. These are rare for any year, but when they occur during a year already famous for its composition changes, they take on even greater significance. The weight difference between copper and zinc pennies may seem minor, just over half a gram, but in the world of coin composition, it is a huge shift. To a collector with a scale, that 0.61 gram difference is as good as a neon sign pointing to a copper or zinc identity. In mass production, that change also meant recalibrating minting equipment, adjusting die pressures, and ensuring that the electroplating on zinc planchets was consistent enough to maintain the penny's traditional look. The decision to make the change mid-year rather than wait for the next production cycle means the mint was under pressure to implement the shift quickly, leading to the overlapping varieties that fuel so much collector interest today. It is worth noting that 1982 is also a year where condition can amplify value dramatically. In the coin grading scale used by services like PCGS and NGC, the difference between an MS-63 and an MS-67 can mean hundreds, or even thousands of dollars. Coins that retain their full red luster, showing no signs of oxidation or handling, are the most sought after. Collectors often refer to these as RD for red, RB for red-brown, or BN for brown, with red commanding the highest premiums. Because copper and zinc age differently, a red zinc coin might retain its bright look longer in some cases, but the plating is prone to bubbling or spotting. Copper coins, on the other hand, can tone beautifully, but once they shift toward brown, their value as uncirculated red specimens is lost. The reverse design of the 1982 cent, showing the Lincoln Memorial, also plays a role in the coin's enduring appeal. Designed by Frank Gasparo and introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, it depicts the neoclassical structure in careful detail. Under magnification, you can see the statue of Lincoln seated between the columns, a tiny representation within the larger architectural design. The legend, United States of America, arcs above, E pluribus unum, rests between the upper edge and the memorial, and 1 cent is boldly displayed below. This reverse design would remain until 2008, after which the cent's reverse shifted to new designs for the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, and then to the Union Shield in 2010. For many collectors, the 1982 penny represents a bridge between old and new, the last of the all-copper Lincoln Memorial cents, and the first of the zinc ERA.IN. Telling the story of the 1982 penny, one must also consider its symbolic value. It represents a moment when economics, politics, and tradition collided in a very small space. The mint's decision was not made lightly. There were debates about whether changing the composition would cheapen the image of the penny or whether it was necessary to protect taxpayer funds from being wasted on coins that cost more to make than they were worth. The compromise was to keep the look and feel as close as possible to the old copper cent, even if the heart of the coin had changed to zinc. Most Americans never noticed the change, and yet it has given birth to one of the most beloved hunting grounds for collectors in modern U.S. coinage. For the serious collector, the 1982 penny is more than a transitional curiosity. It is a year that embodies the thrill of the hunt. The variations are concrete enough to be identified by anyone with patience, but elusive enough that finding the right one feels like striking gold. This is part of why sensational headlines about supposed multi-million-dollar pennies spread so quickly. In reality, number 1982 penny has sold for anything close to $500 million, but in the imagination of the numismatic world, it's easy to let the fantasy grow. You hear about the 1982 D small date copper selling for over $18,000, and you begin to picture what might happen if the only known example in perfect mint state appeared on the block at a high-profile auction. The numbers climb in your mind: 50,000, 100,000, a million. Before long, in the realm of speculative dreaming, you reach those exaggerated figures like 500 million, not because the market could sustain them, but because rare coins inspire the same feverish bidding dreams as rare art or historic artifacts. Yet behind every inflated figure lies a kernel of truth. Rarity drives value, and verifiable rarity, combined with high demand, can lead to extraordinary prices. If tomorrow a previously unknown variant of the 1982 penny emerged, say, a small date copper from Denver in perfect, untouched red condition, there's no telling how high collectors might go in a bidding war. The combination of fame, controversy, and history could make it the centerpiece of a major numismatic sale. And while $500 million is a fantasy number, the publicity surrounding such a find could temporarily push its market value into the stratosphere. Stories like these remind collectors that even the smallest coin can have an outsized impact on the imagination. Market value for the 1982 penny today is a spectrum. On one end, common circulated examples, whether copper or zinc, are worth only face value. They are too numerous, too worn, and too ordinary to attract a premium. But as condition improves, so does value. Uncirculated copper large date coins might fetch a few dollars in pristine condition. Zinc small date coins from Philadelphia, especially in high grades, can push into the tens or even hundreds of dollars. Proof coins from San Francisco, with their mirror-like fields and frosted devices, hold a separate niche value, often sought after by those who collect complete proof sets for the year. And at the very top of the pyramid, the rare transitional errors command the kind of money that turns heads in both collector and mainstream news circles. Collectors approach these coins with a methodical mindset. First, they separate their finds by mint mark. Philadelphia coins lack a mint mark, Denver coins bear the small d under the date, and San Francisco coins show an S. Then, they check the date style, large or small, under magnification. Finally, they weigh the coin to determine its composition. This triple check process quickly weeds out the ordinary and isolates the potentially extraordinary. It is a ritual of sorts, repeated by thousands of coin hunters every year, all hoping that the next coin they examine will be one of the few that break the pattern. The history behind the design also adds a layer of depth to the 1982 penny's appeal. The obverse portrait of Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, had been in continuous use since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Brenner's design was chosen in part for its dignity, and in part for the strength of Lincoln's profile, which lent itself well to the coin's small size. Over the decades, subtle modifications were made to the portrait to accommodate die wear and improve strike quality, but the essence remained the same. By 1982, Lincoln's image had already graced billions of coins, yet in that year it found itself paired with two different metals and two different date styles, a unique chapter in its long career. The reverse, showing the Lincoln Memorial, carried its own significance. Designed by Gasparo, it had replaced the Wheatear's reverse in 1959, and for nearly 50 years it represented the modern penny to generations of Americans. The Memorial reverse was more than just an architectural rendering. It was a symbol of unity, of national memory, and of the enduring presence of Lincoln in American life. Seeing that design struck in both copper and zinc in the same year creates a tangible link between past and future, between tradition and adaptation. One might wonder why the mint didn't simply destroy the leftover copper planchets once the switch to zinc was decided. In truth, the economics of coin production encouraged the use of all available materials. Copper planchets were already produced in bulk, and rather than waste them, the mint used what remained before fully transitioning to zinc. The overlap, in a logistical sense, was efficient. In a numismatic sense, it was an accident that birthed one of the most sought-after modern rarities. This is the kind of unplanned historical detail that makes coin collecting endlessly fascinating. Human decision-making, chance timing, and the machinery of mass production colliding to create something rare. As years pass, the number of surviving high-grade 1,982 coins naturally decreases. Zinc coins in particular are susceptible to corrosion and damage, making pristine examples rarer with each passing decade. Copper coins fare better but are still prone to tarnish and wear. This gradual attrition means that the 1982 penny's more desirable varieties could become even more valuable in the future, as the pool of top-quality survivors shrinks. Collectors know this, which is why they preserve their best finds in protective holders, avoiding fingerprints, humidity, and anything that might dull the coin's surface. The psychology of searching for 1982 pennies is as interesting as the coins themselves. There's a thrill in knowing that at any moment, an unremarkable coin could reveal itself as something special. It taps into the same instinct that drives treasure hunters, metal detectorists, and even lottery players, the hope that with just one more try, fortune might turn. And unlike a lottery ticket, the act of checking pennies costs nothing but time and patience. For many, that alone makes the hunt worthwhile. To truly understand why 1982 was the turning point for the United States 1-cent coin, it helps to step back into the economic climate of the late 1970s and early 1980s. Inflation had been running high for years, driven by oil crises, global market instability, and shifting trade balances. Commodities like copper, silver, and gold were climbing in price, not just as industrial resources but also as hedges against weakening currencies. For the U.S. Mint, which produced billions of pennies annually, this was not a distant market statistic. It was an immediate budget problem. Every time copper prices ticked upward, the cost to mint a penny approached or exceeded 1 cent. This meant that the government was essentially subsidizing the production of money, paying more to create the coin than the coin was worth in circulation. And unlike silver coins in the past, which had been reduced in silver content when prices spiked, the penny had retained its high copper percentage for decades, seemingly untouchable as a traditional staple of U.S. coinage. By early 1982, the tipping point had arrived. Copper had been flirting with prices that pushed the metal content value of a penny above its face value, raising concerns that people might begin hoarding and melting them for profit. Although the law prohibited melting cents for their metal, history showed that market forces often encouraged people to find ways around such restrictions. The mint's answer was to move to a much cheaper base metal, zinc. Zinc was abundant, inexpensive, and lighter than copper, making it a logical substitute when plated with a thin layer of copper to preserve the familiar look. The transition was planned to be as seamless as possible, so the general public would not perceive any disruption or change in their pocket change. What they did not anticipate, at least in the full scope of its eventual impact, was that the mid-year switch and the date style change would create one of the most complex sets of varieties in modern penny history. In practice, this meant that during 1982, the mint was operating with both old copper planchets and new zinc planchets, striking them at the same time. At the same time, some dies were made with the large date style, others with the small date style. And because this was happening at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, plus proof production in San Francisco, the combinations multiplied. For everyday commerce, it made no difference. To the collector, however, each of these differences became a point of interest, a branch in a tree of possibilities. The 7 main varieties: Philadelphia large date copper, Philadelphia small date copper, Philadelphia large date zinc, Philadelphia small date zinc, Denver large date copper, Denver large date zinc, and Denver small date zinc, would be enough to keep hobbyists busy. But the appearance of the 1982 D small date copper, an unplanned and almost mythical variety, elevated the year into legend. This was a time when coin collecting was already undergoing a cultural shift. The boom in silver prices around 1979 to 1980 had made people more aware of the metal value of their coins. Stories of families finding valuable silver coins in old change jars fed into a growing fascination with the idea that hidden treasures might be sitting unnoticed in plain sight. The 1982 penny, especially the rare Denver small date copper, became the logical extension of that narrative, proof that even the most mundane, modern coins could hold secrets. Articles in hobby magazines, mentions in newspaper columns, and later in online forums all stoked the flames, turning what could have been a minor transitional curiosity into one of the most searched for modern coins in America. There is also a tactile, almost intimate quality to the search for these coins. Unlike rare banknotes or gold coins, which are often locked away in vaults or trading hands among a small circle of investors, pennies are everywhere. They move through stores, change drawers, charity boxes, and coffee shop tip jars. You can hold hundreds in your hand, spill them across a table, and examine each one in turn. There is no high barrier to entry, No need for expensive equipment beyond a simple magnifier and a small scale. This accessibility has made the 1982 penny one of the great equalizers in the hobby, where the next lucky find could come from anyone, anywhere, at any time. As the years rolled on, the zinc penny proved to be a mixed success. It was undeniably cheaper to produce, but its durability paled in comparison to copper. Corrosion became more common, especially when the plating was breached, and coins left in damp environments could develop unsightly spots or pits. Copper coins, by contrast, could survive decades of circulation with nothing more than a gradual darkening of color. Ironically, the very change that saved the mint money also ensured that the older copper pennies, especially from the transitional year, would stand out more sharply over time, increasing their appeal to collectors. The historical context of the Lincoln cents design cannot be ignored here either. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln had endured for over 70 years by 1982, surviving changes in minting technology, shifts in public taste, and the replacement of nearly every other coin design from its era. It was a design rooted in respect, intended to honor Lincoln's legacy without unnecessary embellishment. The fact that this classic obverse was paired with such a tumultuous year for composition and date style only adds to the coin's intrigue. On the reverse, Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, itself a product of mid-century modern American ideals, had by 1982 become so familiar that people barely noticed its detail. Yet to a collector, every line of the memorial, every tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside, becomes part of the story, especially when considering that in just a few decades, this reverse would be retired entirely. The combination of economic necessity, historical continuity, and sheer accident created a coin that now serves as both a teaching tool and a prize. Teachers used the 1982 penny to explain concepts like inflation, commodity prices, and the economics of minting. Collectors use it to introduce newcomers to the thrill of variety hunting. And for the lucky few who stumble across a rare transitional variety, it becomes a personal legend, a moment when the past, present, and future of American coinage converged in the palm of their hand. Every great coin has its legends, and the 1982 penny is no exception. While its origins lie in the practical decisions of mint officials and the invisible forces of global commodity markets, its fame has been cemented by the people who have handled it, studied it, and in some cases, stumbled upon it without even knowing what they had. For some collectors, the story begins with a casual glance at a handful of change from the grocery store. For others, it starts with a parent or grandparent passing down a jar of old coins that has sat untouched for decades. There are tales of coin roll hunters spending long, quiet evenings with nothing but a desk lamp, a magnifier, and stacks of pennies, weighing each one with the patience of a jeweler examining gemstones. Every coin they touch is an unknown, most will be common, some will be slightly unusual, and once in a great while, one will be the kind that changes everything. The excitement of discovering a valuable 1982 penny is heightened by the fact that its appearance is completely unremarkable. There is no glint of gold or flash of silver to hint at its worth. To the untrained eye, it is just another penny, small, copper-colored, and familiar. This makes the moment of recognition all the more dramatic. Imagine the sudden realization when the weight on the scale shows 3.11 grams, the date style is confirmed as small, and the mint mark, D, sits proudly beneath the year. It is a moment that can make a collector's heart pound as if they've just found buried treasure, because in a sense, they have. The rarity is so extreme that even seasoned experts can go their entire careers without seeing one in person. Auction houses know how to play on this drama. When a 1982 D small date copper penny appears in a lot, the room comes alive. Catalogs describe its history with reverence, mentioning the mid-year transition, the Denver Mint's shift to zinc, and the freak chance that created a handful of copper survivors. Bidders know they are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying a slice of numismatic folklore. The bidding begins cautiously, then accelerates, hands raising and voices calling out as the price climbs higher and higher. There is a certain electricity in the room when the final hammer falls, the auctioneer's voice ringing out the winning bid. It is a combination of relief, triumph, and perhaps a little disbelief from the new owner, who now holds one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever struck. Outside of the professional numismatic world, the 1982 penny has taken on a life of its own in pop culture and online media. Videos with sensational titles proclaim it to be worth hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of dollars. Social media posts urge people to check their change for the penny that could make you rich. While these claims are often exaggerated, they serve to keep the coin in the public eye, inspiring countless people to start looking more closely at the money that passes through their hands. The myth of the $532 million penny, though not grounded in reality, captures the imagination because it plays into a universal fantasy, the idea that unimaginable wealth could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by anyone lucky enough to notice. Even for those who never find a rare transitional variety, the search can be rewarding in other ways. Collectors often speak about the calming, almost meditative process of sorting coins, the sense of connection to history that comes from holding something that has passed through countless hands over the decades. Each penny has lived a life, carried in pockets, handed to cashiers, dropped in vending machines, forgotten in drawers. A jar of pennies can be like a time capsule, containing coins from years long past, each one with its own quiet story. The 1982 penny, with its unusual blend of variations, becomes a focal point in this personal archaeology, a reason to keep digging deeper. There is also a shared camaraderie among those who search for these coins. In online forums and collector groups, people post photos of their finds, ask for help identifying date styles, and share the thrill of a heavy copper coin turning out to be from that fabled year. The stories are sometimes tinged with humor. Someone spends hours going through pennies only to realize they've been weighing them on a scale set to ounces instead of grams. Other times, the stories carry a note of triumph, with a collector finally finding their first copper small date after years of searching. In this way, the 1982 penny is more than just a collectible. It is a catalyst for connection, drawing people together through a shared pursuit. It's worth noting that the appeal of the 1982 penny is not limited to the United States. Around the world, coin enthusiasts are drawn to it as a case study in how small production quirks can create lasting value. International collectors appreciate the clarity of its story, a mid-year change, a handful of rare survivors, a design familiar to billions, and see in it the same principles that make their own local rarities valuable. Whether in Canada, Australia, or the UK, collectors recognize that these stories transcend borders, tapping into the universal human love for the unexpected treasure. And so, the legend of the 1982 penny continues to grow. It lives in auction houses and in shoebox collections, in YouTube videos and in whispered tips passed between collectors at coin shows. Its reality is valuable enough to justify the hunt, but its myths keep the imagination running wild. Every day, somewhere in the world, someone turns over a penny, glances at the date, and wonders if they've just found something extraordinary. Most of the time, they haven't. But once in a while, just often enough to keep the dream alive, they have. The technical aspects of the 1982 penny are where casual interest often turns into serious collecting. On the surface, the differences between a common large date zinc cent and a rare small date copper cent might seem like nothing more than a change in font or a few tenths of a gram in weight. But for numismatists, these differences are the product of distinct dyes, metal compositions, and minting sequences that can be studied, documented, and preserved. Every variety tells a micro-story about the way coins are made, from the preparation of planchets to the creation of working dies and the precise mechanics of the presses that strike each cent. In the case of the 1982 penny, identifying the metal is a crucial first step. The most reliable method is weighing the coin with a digital scale accurate to at least 0.01 grams. Copper cents should register at 3.11 grams, with a tiny tolerance for wear or scale accuracy, while zinc cents come in at about 2.50 grams. This difference is large enough that even a slightly worn copper coin will still feel heavier in the hand than a zinc one. Advanced collectors also pay attention to the sound test, where a drop onto a hard surface produces a clear, ringing tone for copper and a dull, flat sound for zinc. While not as precise as weighing, it's a quick way to separate the two when sorting large quantities. Once the metal is identified, The next step is to examine the date style. Large date coins have numbers that appear slightly bolder, with the 2 in 1982 more upright and the loops of the 8 appearing more horizontal and wide. Small date coins feature a more delicate curvature in the 2 and the 8 loops are tighter and more vertical. The distinction can be subtle, especially for someone who has not compared the two side by side, but once seen, it becomes much easier to spot in the future. Many collectors keep a reference coin of each style for quick comparison during sorting. For authentication, especially for the rare 1982D small date copper, professional grading and verification are essential. Services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, specialize in confirming authenticity and assigning a grade based on the coin's condition. A certified coin in a tamper-evident holder not only reassures potential buyers but also greatly increases the coin's marketability and value. Counterfeits do exist, often made by altering a date on a different copper coin or by adding a mint mark to a Philadelphia small date. Professional graders have the expertise and equipment to detect these alterations, examining under magnification for tool marks, inconsistencies in the metal, and other signs of tampering. Grading itself is a science and an art. Circulated coins are graded on the amount of wear visible on Lincoln's cheekbones, jawline, and hair, as well as the clarity of the lettering and memorial details on the reverse. Uncirculated coins are graded on their strike quality, luster, and the absence of contact marks or spots. In the highest grades, MS 67 and above, every tiny imperfection matters, and a single mark or spot can drop a coin down a grade, affecting value by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This is why rare varieties like the 1982D small date copper are so prized in mint condition. Not only are they scarce in composition, but surviving examples that were never heavily circulated are rarer still. From a market perspective, the 1982 penny enjoys a unique position. It is modern enough to be familiar and accessible, yet it has the variety, complexity, and scarcity potential usually associated with much older coins. This gives it broad appeal across the collector spectrum, from beginners sorting through change to advanced numismatists building specialized Lincoln cent collections. Auction results for top-grade rare varieties have shown a steady upward trend over the past few decades, and while prices can fluctuate with market interest, the long-term trajectory has been positive. The story of the 1982D small date copper, in particular, has become entrenched in modern coin lore, ensuring that demand for it will remain high. As time passes, the number of high-quality 1982 cents in circulation continues to dwindle. Zinc coins are particularly vulnerable to environmental damage, with their thin copper plating susceptible to bubbles, corrosion, and peeling when exposed to moisture or harsh conditions. Copper coins fare better but still suffer from oxidation and handling wear. The result is that the surviving population of pristine examples will only shrink, potentially pushing values higher for top-grade pieces in the coming years. This natural scarcity, combined with the year's historical significance, makes the 1982 penny a prime candidate for continued market interest. Some collectors speculate that the eventual phasing out of the U.S. cent, an idea that has been floated periodically in government discussions, could add another layer of desirability to the 1982 penny. If the penny is discontinued, the last few years of its production will take on new significance, and transitional years like 1982 will be even more closely studied and collected. In such a scenario, today's common-looking 1982 cents might be viewed decades from now as tangible relics of a discontinued denomination, much like obsolete coins from the 19th century are treasured today. For now, the technical process of identifying, authenticating, and grading 1982 pennies remains both a science and a form of treasure hunting. Each coin examined is another chance to find a rarity, and each rarity found is a story worth telling. The thrill lies in knowing that these treasures are not locked away in museums or private collections. They are out there, in the wild, hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary coins, waiting for someone with a sharp eye, a steady hand, and just the right mix of patience and luck. The preservation of any coin is both a technical discipline and an act of respect for history, But with coins like the 1982 penny, especially its rare varieties, the stakes are higher. A single mishandling, a careless cleaning, or improper storage can strip away hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value. Many newcomers to coin collecting learn this lesson the hard way when they polish a coin to a bright, unnatural shine, thinking they're improving it, only to discover that they have erased its original luster and surface integrity, permanently lowering its grade. The natural patina, or toning, that develops on copper over time is part of its story and, in some cases, can even enhance its visual appeal and desirability among collectors. For this reason, preservation starts with the simple principle of doing no harm. For valuable 1982 pennies, professional-grade coin holders or inert flips made of mylar are preferred over common PVC flips, which can leach chemicals over time and cause a greenish residue known as PVC damage. Airtight capsules offer even greater protection, sealing the coin from moisture and environmental contaminants. In more advanced setups, collectors store these capsules in climate-controlled environments where temperature and humidity remain stable. This prevents the slow but inevitable process of copper oxidation, which can darken or spot the coin's surface over decades. Some even use desiccants inside storage boxes to absorb any stray moisture, guarding against corrosion at the microscopic level. Handling is another critical factor. Oils and salts from human skin can leave invisible marks that, over time, react with the coin's surface. The safest method is to handle coins only by their edges, preferably while wearing cotton or nitrile gloves. Magnification tools allow for careful examination without the need for prolonged handling, and LED lighting can reveal subtle surface details without generating the heat that older incandescent lamps might produce. Every interaction with the coin is an opportunity to either preserve or compromise its condition, and experienced collectors treat each step with a sense of ritual precision. In the educational sphere, the 1982 penny has become a textbook example in numismatic courses and coin club lectures. It embodies several key concepts: transitional minting years, the significance of die varieties, the economics of metal composition changes, and the interplay between rarity and condition in determining value. Instructors use it to teach students how to differentiate between small and large dates, how to weigh coins for metal identification, and how to verify mint marks for authenticity. It's also a perfect case study for explaining the difference between a common coin with an interesting story and a genuine rarity that commands market premiums. Many coin clubs host 1982 penny nights, where members bring in examples to weigh, examine, and compare, creating a hands-on learning experience that sticks with collectors for years. Beyond the classroom, the influence of the 1982 penny extends into modern collecting habits. It has inspired a generation of hobbyists to approach even the most ordinary pocket change with a critical eye. This shift in mindset, treating everyday coins as potential treasures, has revitalized interest in U.S. cents as a collectible series. Collectors who start by looking for the rare 1982 varieties often branch out into earlier Lincoln cents, discovering the allure of wheatbacks, doubled dies, and key dates like the 1909 SVDB or the 1914D. In this way, the 1982 penny serves as a gateway into the broader world of numismatics, transforming casual curiosity into a lifelong passion. The coin has also left its mark on digital age collecting. Online communities dedicated to coin hunting often use the 1982 penny as a challenge piece, posting side-by-side photos of large and small dates, or videos of weighing sessions where the scale tips unexpectedly into copper territory. Social media amplifies these moments, turning a simple discovery into a story shared across thousands of screens. The blend of rarity, relatability, and the possibility of profit makes it ideal for the quick, engaging format of modern digital content. This constant stream of posts keeps the 1982 penny in public consciousness, ensuring that even non-collectors recognize its significance. In a broader sense, the 1982 penny has reinforced the timeless principle that value in coin collecting is often hidden in the smallest of details. It has taught both beginners and experts to slow down, to notice differences in typography, weight, and tone that others might overlook. This attentiveness can spill over into other areas of collecting, sharpening observational skills and deepening appreciation for the craftsmanship behind every coin. For some, the pursuit of a rare 1982 penny becomes less about the financial reward and more about the thrill of the hunt, the feeling of being part detective, part historian, and part treasure seeker. Even decades from now, when today's zinc cents have grown scarce and the copper survivors have gained an even deeper patina, the 1982 penny will continue to be a touchstone for the numismatic community. It will stand as a reminder of a pivotal moment in U.S. minting history, a year when economics, design, and chance converged to produce one of the most intriguing modern coin stories. And in the meantime, somewhere in a coffee can, a desk drawer, or the dark corner of a cash register, another one might be waiting for the right set of eyes to find it. The story of the 1982 penny fits into a much larger tradition of transitional coins, pieces struck during a year when the U.S. Mint altered design elements, composition, or production methods, often resulting in unintentional rarities. Collectors who know the history recognize echoes of the famous 1943 copper cents, created when a few leftover bronze planchets from 1942 were accidentally fed into presses set up for the new steel cents of World War II. Like the 1982 penny, the 1943 copper cent looks ordinary to the untrained eye, but its rarity has made it legendary. In 1944, the reverse situation occurred. A few leftover steel planchets found their way into presses striking the new copper alloy cents, creating the even rarer 1944 steel cent. These mistakes were the result of timing, logistics, and human oversight, factors that also played a role in the appearance of 1982 small-date copper cents. Another historical cousin is the 1974 aluminum cent, an experimental coin never intended for circulation. Struck in limited numbers as Congress debated replacing copper, most of these lightweight aluminum pieces were melted down, but a few escaped into private hands. Though different in origin from the 1982 varieties, the 1974 aluminum cent shares the theme of composition change driven by economic pressure. The late 1970s and early 1980s were a time of volatile commodity markets, and copper prices surged high enough that the metal content of a cent was worth close to, or in some moments, more than, its face value. For the U.S. Mint, producing copper cents at a loss was unsustainable, and so the zinc planchet, with its thin copper plating, became the logical replacement. The economic decision to change composition was straightforward on paper, but in practice, it required a delicate balancing act. The new coins had to be visually indistinguishable from the old ones to avoid public confusion, yet different enough internally to reduce production costs. This meant coordinating suppliers, modifying production machinery, and managing the switchover at multiple mint facilities without halting output. The fact that both copper and zinc cents were struck in 1982 was a result of these logistical realities, with copper planchets still in inventory while zinc planchets were being phased in. The overlap created the fertile ground for transitional oddities, including those rare Denver-minted small-date copper cents that now capture so much attention. The market forces at play in 1982 are not unique to that year. Coin history is filled with similar moments, when metal prices or availability forced the mint to make changes. In the 1960s, rising silver prices led to the removal of silver from dimes and quarters, resulting in transitional coins like the 1965 silver Washington quarter. During the Second World War, nickel was removed from the 5-cent piece to save the metal for the war effort, leading to the silver, war nickels, of 1942 to 1945. In each of these cases, collectors later came to treasure the oddities and mistakes that emerged during the changeover period. The 1982 penny is a modern continuation of this theme, and it serves as a reminder that such transitions are opportunities for collectors to be vigilant. Looking forward, it's not hard to imagine another 1982 moment in the future. If inflation continues to erode the purchasing power of the cent, and production costs remain higher than face value, the U.S. may eventually retire the penny altogether. In such a scenario, the final year of production could be rife with varieties, transitional planchets, and possible minting anomalies. Even if the cent survives, Another composition change could occur if zinc prices spike or if environmental regulations push the mint toward a more sustainable or recyclable material. History has shown that the intersection of economic necessity and mass production inevitably produces the unexpected. The collector's role in such moments is one of awareness and preparedness. The lesson of 1982 is that rarities are often created not in secret, deliberate mintings, but in the ordinary churn of production during times of change. Those who pay attention to small shifts in weight, color, strike quality, and design details are the ones who notice the anomalies before they vanish into circulation. The knowledge gained from studying the 1982 penny equips modern collectors to recognize and preserve the treasures of future transitions. In this way, the 1982 penny is more than just a collectible, it's a template for understanding how value emerges in the numismatic world. Its story teaches that change, whether driven by economics, war, or technology, is a constant force in coinage, and that every change carries the potential for something rare, something that might one day set the auction room buzzing. The key is being ready when history repeats itself. When collectors discuss the 1982 penny, they often begin with the big, obvious distinctions: copper versus zinc, large date versus small date, mint mark versus no mint mark. But once those fundamentals are mastered, the conversation naturally moves to the finer, more esoteric world of die stages and strike anomalies. These are the microscopic signatures left by the tools and processes of coin production, and for the dedicated numismatist, they are as telling as a fingerprint. Every coin starts with a die, an engraved piece of hardened steel used to strike the design into blank planchets. Over time, as the die is used, it experiences wear, fatigue, and sometimes damage. In the early stage of a die's life, its details are crisp, lines are sharp, and the strike produces coins with strong, full features. As the die ages, metal flow can round off details, fine lines may fade, and tiny cracks may appear. These die cracks, if small, may pass unnoticed by casual observers, but as they grow, they can create raised lines on the coin's surface that tell the story of that die's final days. In the case of 1982 pennies, die cracks are not uncommon, especially around the lettering and Lincoln's bust. More dramatic are die breaks, sometimes called cuds, where a piece of the die actually chips away, leaving a blank raised blob of metal on the struck coin. A 1982 small date penny with a dramatic cud becomes not only a variety by date and metal but also a one-of-a-kind example of minting history. Such coins often appeal to a specialized subset of collectors who focus exclusively on error coins and anomalies. Another microscopic area of study is doubled dies, coins where the die itself was improperly hubbed, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. While 1982 is not famous for a major doubled die like the 1955 or 1969 cents, minor doubling can still be found on some examples, particularly in the date or lettering. These varieties often require magnification to spot and may be overlooked by those without a trained eye. Even machine doubling, a result of die bounce during striking, can intrigue certain collectors, though it is generally less valuable than true hub doubling. Planchet flaws are another layer of intrigue. Copper and zinc planchets have different metallurgical properties, and imperfections in their manufacture manifest differently. In copper sense, impurities in the alloy may produce tiny streaks or discolorations. In zinc sense, the thin copper plating can occasionally blister or peel, revealing the silvery metal beneath. While severe damage can lower a coin's grade and value, certain mint-caused flaws, like a perfectly centered plating blister, can actually add collectible interest when documented as an authentic mint error. Strike pressure and alignment also contribute to subtle differences among coins struck from the same die. A slightly off-center strike, where the design is shifted enough to reveal part of the blank planchet's rim, can turn an ordinary 1982 penny into a curiosity worth more than face value. More extreme misalignments, where significant portions of the design are missing or doubled, are dramatic mint errors that fetch strong prices. Even strike sharpness, influenced by planchet hardness and die condition, can result in coins with unusually bold or unusually weak details, differences that trained eyes notice immediately. Die polishing lines, created when mint workers clean a die to extend its life, are another microscopic clue to a coin's journey. On some 1982 pennies, fine parallel lines can be seen under magnification, running across the fields of the coin. While not technically errors, these lines record the human intervention needed to keep a die serviceable and are part of the coin's unique character. For some collectors, documenting these die states and anomalies becomes a personal project, building a photographic catalog that shows the progression of a single die from early life to retirement. This practice turns each coin into a data point, contributing to a broader understanding of the mint's production habits and the life cycle of dies. Over time, patterns emerge. Certain dies or mint facilities may produce more errors, or certain varieties may be linked to specific die stages. This is the kind of detective work that blurs the line between hobby and historical research. In the grand narrative of the 1982 penny, these microscopic differences add depth to the story. They transform a year already rich with variety into an even more intricate puzzle, where no two coins are exactly alike. For the collector willing to go beyond date and composition, the rewards are twofold: the satisfaction of discovery and the quiet knowledge that they are preserving a level of detail that might otherwise be lost to time. Each tiny crack, misalignment, or doubling is a physical record of the minting process, a reminder that even in a year defined by change, the smallest imperfections can leave the biggest legacy. The journey from a pocket change discovery to a six-figure auction lot is one of patience, knowledge, and strategy, and for the 1982 penny, that journey often hinges on details invisible to the casual observer. While anyone can weigh a coin to determine copper or zinc composition, the leap from identifying a variety to commanding top market prices requires validation from the numismatic world's gatekeepers, professional grading companies. These organizations, such as PCGS, NGC, and Annex, serve as both authenticators and evaluators, encapsulating coins in tamper-proof holders with precise labels that detail date, mint mark, variety, composition, and grade. For a 1982 penny, a label reading 1982D small date copper MS65 instantly signals to the market that the coin is genuine and in exceptional condition. Grading is a science blended with art, and in the case of 1982 varieties, every point on the grading scale matters. An example graded MS63 might fetch hundreds, but an MS66 or MS67 could leap into the thousands because of the exponential rarity of high-grade survivors. For proof-like strikes or coins with exceptional eye appeal, perfect centering, glowing luster, and virtually no marks, the price curve steepens sharply. The highest graded known examples often become Population 1 coins, meaning no other specimen in the grading database matches or surpasses them. Such coins can create frenzied bidding wars, with final prices dwarfing the logical melt or face value by astronomical margins. Microscopic errors, like those examined earlier, die cracks, doubled dies, plating blisters, when confirmed by grading services as mint errors, can push values even higher. The combination of a rare variety and a dramatic error is the numismatic equivalent of a perfect storm. For example, a small date copper 1982D with a bold die break might appeal to both variety collectors and error specialists, expanding the potential buyer pool and driving competition. In a market where emotional desire and bragging rights often matter as much as historical importance, the unique factor is a powerful force. Auction houses know how to leverage this. High-profile coins are photographed under specialized lighting, magnifying every minute detail so bidders can appreciate the artistry and rarity of the piece. Lot descriptions are written with the flair of a historical drama, recounting the economic pressures of the early 1980s, the mint's logistical challenges, and the accidental birth of a modern treasure. The story becomes as important as the coin itself, and in the hands of a skilled auctioneer, that story can add tens of thousands of dollars to the hammer price. For the legendary top-end 1982 specimens, the result is sometimes a final sale figure that leaves even seasoned dealers shaking their heads, proving once again that numismatics is as much about passion as it is about metal. Collectors who wish to capitalize on this must think strategically. It begins with education, understanding not just the key varieties but also the subtle die markers and strike characteristics that separate an ordinary 1982 penny from an extraordinary one. Next comes careful sourcing, searching bank rolls, estate collections, coin shop backrooms, and online marketplaces with a discerning eye. Many great finds begin as overlooked coins in bulk lots, hiding in plain sight among thousands of common cents. The patient collector examines each piece, weighing, measuring, and inspecting under magnification until something unusual emerges. Once identified, preservation becomes the priority. Raw coins, those not yet graded, must be stored in inert holders and handled with gloves to avoid microscopic damage that could lower the grade. Timing also matters. Submitting coins for grading when demand is high or after a record-breaking auction of a similar piece can yield stronger market results. Networking within collector communities provides valuable insights into when certain varieties are hot, and which auction houses or platforms are yielding the best prices for similar material. The final act is the sale itself. Some choose the high-drama path of a live auction, where competitive energy can drive prices beyond expectation. Others opt for private treaty sales to high-end collectors or museums, ensuring the coin's placement in a prestigious collection and sometimes negotiating premium terms. In either case, the outcome for a well-selected, well-preserved, and well-marketed 1982 penny can be life-changing. It's a reminder that in coin collecting, as in treasure hunting, knowledge is the truest form of currency, and so the tale of the 1982 penny comes full circle. Born in a year of economic necessity and logistical improvisation, it has transcended its humble 1-cent denomination to become a symbol of numismatic intrigue. It stands shoulder to shoulder with legendary rarities, not because of its age or precious metal content, but because of its story, a story of transition, of overlooked details, of the razor-thin line between common and priceless. For those who chase it, the 1982 penny offers more than potential profit. It offers the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of discovery, and the rare chance to hold history in the palm of one's hand. And perhaps somewhere, in a change jar or a forgotten drawer, the next great 1982 treasure still waits, unassuming and quiet, for someone with the curiosity to look closer and the wisdom to understand what they've found.